This is Colin McGuigan for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined by Frank Smith in Las Vegas, Nevada. The world tour continues. It's a new city every time we speak. Frank, you're fresh off a Australian trip?
Yeah, come back from Sydney. Had a couple of days.
Tan, to be fair.
Come a couple of days in LA, mate, getting a bit of sunshine. You know, when we were leaving Sydney on Sunday, I said to Eddie, "Where are you off to?" He said, "Altrincham." I said, "Los Angeles." I'd like to be in Altrincham for the fight, but not the weather necessarily.
What does that mean for Matchroom? There's quite a big, I don't want to say big deal because it's fair that it's his debut, but there's quite a big parade around Pat Brown at the moment. What does it mean for you to do a show somewhere you've never done before, altering everything that comes with this show?
Yeah, look, I think we're excited about the journey with Pat Brown. He's a brilliant fighter. You know, coming through the amateur ranks, coming from Paris, didn't get the result he wanted there, but I believe he's going to be very much suited to the pro ranks, and I think he's going to be the kind of fighter that we need. You know, when you look at British fighters of old, you know, like you look at the likes of Josh Warrington, fighters like that, you know, have come through. He reminds me of that, someone who is a huge draw, and he's going to entertain. He's going to deliver. You know, he's going to get in there and he's going to have a tear up. And when he actually came to our office in Brentwood, I remember sitting there and he went, "You know, I just want to have a tear up." I was like, "Yes, my man, this is the guy for me."
Is there? I'm not making a comparison, so for anyone who's going to jump on this and say, "Mate, I'm not," I'm just saying, AJ sounds. There's like this big massive thing, AJ's and Olympian and stuff. Pat Brown, there's the same type of feeling. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, look, we want to make a huge effort with the young fighters we sign. You know, when we sign a fighter from a debut, when we're selling a journey, you need to put that effort in, you know. And when you're trying to build a story and you see where this can go in the long run, you need to start from day one the way you want to go on. And that was always the focus for us, was to make sure he headlined the show, make sure he was the star of the show. You know, he sold well over 1,000 tickets. The atmosphere in there is going to be mental come tomorrow night. And yeah, I'm excited to see the journey begin.
Obviously, we're here for a massive rematch with Michaela, Sandy Ryan. That first fight had a lot of outside noise. Were you one of the people who Michaela speaks about, saying that in Sandy's ear that it shouldn't have happened that night?
No, I'm quite open. I just did an interview with Buncey as well. I said, like, you have to be realistic about the fact, right? So Sandy Ryan has trained for 12 weeks, right? I'm not saying this is ideal preparation. I'm not saying it's the kind of way you want a fight night to go. She's trained for 12 weeks to pull out at that moment. You know, she's a fighter. She gets paid to fight. And let's be realistic about it. Even represented her, you'd say, it's not ideal what you've been through, but we need to, you know, you need to get in there and fight for her career, you know, because otherwise she'd have 5 months out the ring, 4 months out the ring, and that wouldn't be beneficial for her. I think she made the right decision that night. I think she fought off of emotion that night. I think it was a very close fight that arguably could have gone either way. You know, being completely open, I think, you know, if either Sandy or Michaela won, you couldn't have argued. Michaela got the win that night, but I know that Sandy Ryan can be much better, and I know that's what you're going to see come Saturday night.
If Sandy Ryan were to win on Saturday night, do you look at the trilogy because of everything that's involved in this? Do you look elsewhere? What do you do with Sandy Ryan?
Yeah, look, the trilogy's a great fight. You know, I think Chantel Cameron's a great fight as well. There's been a lot of back and forth between those two over the years, but you know, I could see a trilogy as well. So you know, the focus is fully on Saturday. She's got to get in there. She's got to deliver a performance. She's got to get the win. And if she gets the win, you know, she's got so many opportunities, and she's in such a great place.
I want to ask your opinion on something. I've just spoke to Bob Arum and I've told him his comments on Eddie saying that, you know, he believes Inoue should be removed from the pound for pound list. Bob kind of went off and said Eddie Hearn should shut up. There'll be an opportunity down the line. What's the conversations been like between you, Top Rank, Todd DeBoof? Have you had a conversation about MJ and Inoue, and will it definitely happen?
Yes, it will happen. It will happen. Look, Eddie's great at what he does, isn't he? You know, he gets people going. It's provocative. What's that song, that Kanye West song? Gets the people going. I'll go play it later. Didn't really work, did it? But that's his job, to get out. It's just the same thing that MJ's been. The reality is MJ has been mandatory for a long, long time. He deserves his shot. And if you're not going to give him a shot, then you should vacate the belt. I feel we will get that fight and we will see that.
Is that a Las Vegas type of fight?
No, I think the reality is, you know, probably back in Japan, but I think you'll see that fight after this.
Matchroom show?
No. But you know, look, Mr. Honda and all of all of the Inoue team we're working through, and yeah, you'll see that next.
You've recently announced your fight's back. Is that going to be in Birmingham?
Just working through the detail now. There was obviously discussion at one point because the opponent is with Eddie Reynoso and the Canelo team, but I think Birmingham is very likely. We're working through that show for June just now, and hopefully get details out.
Who else could we see on that?
Some other fighters. Conor Walker.
Conor Walker. Who would that be against?
Liam Taylor obviously fights tomorrow night. Tomorrow night on our next gen show. British title defence. Conor Walker coming off the back of that tremendous finish back in Nottingham in January. Had a bit of an injury, so we'll be back out then on that show in June. And then one other very big one that we're working on.
What's the conversations been like with AJ? I know you're quite close to 258. We're now at a point where we're expecting news will be imminent within the next month. Obviously, it's not going to be Fury next. Is it potentially still going to be Dubois? Do you think that's kind of around it?
Anything's possible, isn't it? Anything.
But you love sitting on the fence here and just saying, anything's possible.
Not sitting on the fence, but over the years we've done so much talking about this, that, and then everyone go, you didn't do this. And,
is Fury AJ possible next?
I think so. I think it can be.
Have you had conversations about that fight?
Fury is currently retired. Not me personally.
Okay, have Matchroom had conversations?
I think there's been discussions over time. Obviously, that's a huge fight. Fury is currently retired, though, obviously, isn't he? Yeah. So as things stand, he is a retired fighter. He's not an active fighter. I just think that fight is too big not to happen. That's just my opinion. And that fight, I feel that fight will happen. And I hope it does, because it's a huge, huge moment for the sport. Okay,
Fury's retired, right? So let's take him out of the equation for 1 minute.
Yeah.
We've seen now Chisora's mandatory. Who does AJ fight next if it's not Dubois? Do you go to Deontay Wilder and say, let's make that up?
He can fight whoever. The reality is, he can fight whoever he wants because he's still the money man. But I'm being honest with you. There's not a fight set right now. But if anyone wants to make money,
okay, let me rephrase this. Right,
to fight Anthony Joshua, you can't argue with the fact he is to get money for other fighters. He's the man that sells because he's such a commercial draw.
Okay, you love a pound note. You love a commercial draw. Eddie loves a pound note, right? You all love a pound note. If it was up to you, taking Tyson Fury out of the equation, in your opinion, who should AJ fight next?
I have said on interviews before, I like the Deontay Wilder fight in Vegas. As an example, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Have you had discussions about that potentially?
No. But that's just my view. If you're asking me, looking at names, looking at fights out there, that's still a huge fight. People buy into narrative, don't they? We've seen it. I mean, look at Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. That was sold on narrative, and it did huge numbers. So people buy into narratives, and I'm just whatever fight he takes next is the biggest decision of his career, I would say.
You lost Ramla Ali in the past week to MVP and Jake Paul. Talk to me a little bit how that came around, and did you offer Ramla another deal?
We had a deal with, firstly, I've had a great relationship with Ramla and a partner, Richard, over the years, and I went on holiday with them last year. I was in Thailand with them, so my relationship is very good with them, and I'm delighted that she got a massive opportunity. I think when we sat down and looked at what was there and sort of didn't necessarily align with what was next, if that makes sense, and have the right opportunities at that point. And I said in the last meeting I had, if there's other opportunities out there, we should look at them. And that's always been the way, we've worked. I think, you look at the investment that's being made by MVP into female boxing right now, it's amazing. And it shouldn't take away, the one thing that gets me is it shouldn't take away, I think we've done 10, 12 years of massive investment. I think we've been, played a part in why female boxing is growing. But ultimately the fighters have done the key job. But I think when someone new comes into the market, happy days. If someone else is then going to invest into the sport, invest into it, great. So yeah, I'm happy for her. I'm happy for the fighters, the opportunity. Alicia Baumgardner as well, another fighter that was signed with us, and it's a great time for them all. And congratulations to them. It doesn't change anything. We've worked with fighters, and fighters have gone to other promoters over the years, and I've always been the same. Whoever it's been. And it shouldn't take away from the work that's been done and the relationship that's been had, and because we've been there, we've been a huge part of that journey. With Ramla, throughout the tough times, we were always there, and the energy never changed. And I wish her all the best in her next steps. And obviously the platform and the power of Jake Paul and MVP is going to be great. So I'm happy.
Right, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Last one from me. We'll catch up again maybe tomorrow, maybe after the fight.
Perfect.
Right. Obviously, today we've heard the news. The IBF have ordered an immediate rematch, Crocker-Donovan. Firstly, what discussions have you had with Team Crocker and Team Donovan on that?
I just spoke to Jamie Conlon 45 minutes ago, an hour ago. Look, when we represent both the fighters, so independently they've been through their process throughout this. Obviously both sides will have put their case across. The IBF have made the decision. Whether Lewis decides to appeal that is going to be a decision he will make with his team. I think, like we say, the reality is that fight happens next, that rematch. It's a massive fight.
Belfast again?
Yeah, I believe so. We're looking at options now. We did look at some outside options. It's always tough, those sort of numbers in stadiums, to make it work because of the cost going to a stadium.
Surely there's stadiums in Belfast that could do that.
Yeah, but it's still the cost. Like, you think you have to create this whole, from the flooring, the canopy, the seating, so it's not as easy as just go outdoors with it. We're looking at options right now, and I think that's a fight you'll see in the summer.
This summer? July, August time?
Yeah, around that sort of period, yeah.
In terms of Matchroom schedule, this is my last question. What are we expecting in the summer? Will we see more US shows added soon?
Yeah, we've obviously announced up until May 17th now.
June, Cambosos, Hitchens,
a couple of bits
in Brooklyn?
A couple of bits being announced in May. Obviously Sugar Nunez is challenging for the world title in Japan on May 25th. Then we're working on a Mexico show in May, then a US and a UK show in June. So lots more to come.
Cambosos, Hitchens, Brooklyn, or in New York, if it is going to happen?
Let's see. So no, because it's not done yet.
Yeah, but if it's going to happen, would it be in Brooklyn or would it be in MSG?
It's still ongoing, depending on a little bit on dates and venues.
And will there be anything else announced July, August time in America?
First things first, we just get these June bits, these end of May and June bits done, and then we've switched our focus to July. A lot of interesting fights we're working on.
Frank Smith, pleasure, my friend.
Colin, pleasure, my friend.